Hey guys, welcome back. Next part of the project, we're on to building headers. I've got the right hand side all mocked up here. I'll show you how I get started at it, and then when I do the left one, I'll show you the procedures I use for building the header. So take you underneath here. Okay, so on these Hemis, particularly this one, I'll show you the factory manifold. Let me get some light on the subject. So this is a factory Chrysler Aspen 5.7 exhaust manifold. It's got a 2-inch, actually it's not even 2-inch, it's about 1.7 outlet on the manifold for all 4 cylinders, which is absolutely ridiculous. So what I've done is I'm really limited for room here because of changing to the GM chassis on this. Just see if there we go, I got you in the right spot there now. So I'm using building a log style header and using 2.5-inch tubing for the runner. As you can see right here is the runner, goes up. I'm using 1.7 mandrel bent tubes for each cylinder, and I got some stainless steel flanges from a Canadian supplier. Well, actually the tubing came from a Canadian supplier too, Lyle Stainless Mandrel Bends out of, I think they're out of Hamilton, Ontario. So I'll just let it down here and I can show you from up above. Okay guys, so here's the header from up above. You can see I've got the first bend here is a 90, comes out of the first port, and then I have 45-degree elbows that I cut exactly in half, and I'll show you that on the bench. I have 2 sections. I have a 60-degree bend for this side, and I have a 45 for the other. And a little bit of an extension on the front that I shrank down to 1.75 or 1.7 on the front here. So I'll take you over to the bench and show you all the parts and pieces to make these. Okay guys, so here's this is the passenger side header. It's all tack welded together. You can see we have a nice flow from all of the tubes. They all fit into the flange. They're recessed slightly by about 3/16 of an inch. This is going to allow me to weld them on the inside, which gives them a really nice clean look on the outside here. Going to put a 2.5-inch flange on the end of this pipe, as well as a 2.5 on the exhaust pipe, so they'll bolt together with a gasket. So that's the next thing I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to weld everything up, all the tubes in. I can take the flange off, and then I'll stick the flange on. I'll clamp it to a hard surface so that it can't warp, and I'll run the welds around the inside. So to get to this point, you have to plan out how you're going to start. And I normally start by putting bolting the flange to the head, and then do your first tube at the front. And on this particular one, it is a 1.7 90 that I'm going to cut here and about here. That'll give me my distance out. Then I'm going to take a piece of 2.5-inch tubing, and you can purchase one of these on Amazon. It's called an end shaping cone. Can't remember. Lizzle, I think, is the manufacturer. They're about $40 Canadian, about 10 US. And I take a short piece of tubing, I put some grease on the inside of this, and I take my little 12-ton press, and I can push this down, and it shrinks the end of the 2.5 so that I get a really nice fit on the 1 7/8". And then the total number of pieces for this kit to build these was the 2 flanges, 2 90-degree elbows, and 3 45s. And I cut these exactly in the center, and that gives me my 3 tubes to complete the one side. So pretty cost effective. The tubes, because of shipping, was $149, and the 2 stainless flanges were I think they were $153. So all in for the headers, we're going to be about $350 in parts here, so including the flanges and stuff for the lower side. And then we're going to paint them with some of that high temperature ceramic paint and bake them off in an oven. So I'll get started on this. When I get to shrinking the end of this, I'll bring you back and show you how I do that. Okay guys, I'm all clamped up, ready to go, welding the tubes to the header flange here. I got it clamped to my trusty piece of 8-inch I-beam. It should keep it pretty flat. So I'm going to tack it in 3 spots, then I'll turn it around, tack the other side, and then I'll keep it clamped to this while I weld the tubes into the header here. So I'll be back shortly. Okay guys, so I've got the flange all welded on. I've got all the tubes welded up. What I did was I took my little Ryobi belt sander, I think it's 4x36, not a real big one, and I just dressed the face up a little bit just to see if there's any warpage, and it comes out, it's rubbing everywhere, so it's really good. Now you get a really nice weld in all of the circles here. Anywhere there's a little bump, I'll just take a die grinder, clean it up a little bit. Now these ports are quite a bit bigger than what's in the head, so I'm not worried too much about flow, because it's way more than what there was from the factory. So what I'm going to do now is just clean up my other welds a little bit and stick this one on, and then I can get started setting up the second one, and I'll show you how I go about doing that. Okay guys, so we're back. This is the completed header. I just wanted to get all the MIG splatter off of it. Cleaned up the inside of the ports a little bit. I'll just show you here with the, this is a factory gasket. As you can see, the holes in the header are bigger than the holes in the cylinder head and the gasket. So we should have good flow and everything. So now I'll get started on the other one, and I'll bring you back. Okay guys, so I'm all set up here. I'm going to shrink the end of this piece of 2.5-inch tubing to go over top of my 1 3/4. I've got it set up in the press with the cone on it. Just going to, so it starts fairly slowly. You want to keep the grease. Make sure everything stays nice and straight. I don't like to go too far at once. Just kind of. As you can see, it takes it down fairly nice, and I rotate it around in the cone because these things are not machined really well. Okay, that's all there is to it. Keep doing that until it fits. I'll just put you back inside. Okay guys, so here's our piece. It's all shrunk down, tapered. and we have a really nice fit onto that piece of tubing, which gives us nice flow. So now I can carry on the putting pipes onto the tube here. So guys, I got my 2 pieces of 2.5 inch tubing set up, the one that I shrunk the end on, and the elbow that's going to form the last of the back end of the log. I'm just going to set them up in the piece of angle here, keep them straight, tack weld them together, and then I can get the front piece on into the flange. That'll set everything to where it has to be for putting it together. Okay, I'm going to get the next piece set up here and we should be... Okay, so I have the front piece, or the first tube, set in the flange. You can see I have it recessed about 3/16. I put a depth mark on it, and then I put 2 reference marks for angle for when I move it around after the fact here. Okay guys, so I've got the log tube in. It's tack welded to the 1 7/8 at the front. We've got a nice straight run back, and the down leg is pointing straight down. So from here now I can build the other 3 tubes. I'll start with the rear one, and before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a spacer, cut a wood spacer to fit between here and here, and that'll give me my height, because the front isn't welded, and I don't want to weld the front into the flange yet, so that I can move stuff around. Okay, so what we're doing now is I have this piece of 1/4 inch plywood in here that's got my height set as to where I want the tube. Now the tedious part starts. So here's one of my 45-degree bends that I've cut. What I do is hold it up flat on here. I got to remember that this has to come in 1/8 of an inch to 3/16, and then I put a mark here with the angle that leaves me a little long, because what I'm going to have to do is when I cut this off, I'm going to cut it flat, and then I'm going to use my angle grinder and I'm going to slowly grind curves into here till I get the perfect fit on the tube. Then I can slide this piece in, mark, and cut the hole in my manifold log there. So I'll bring you back as I start getting going on that. Okay, so I've got my piece cut. I left myself lots of room, because you've really got to sneak up on this, otherwise you're going to end up wasting elbows. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to put a center line mark on my piece of 1 7/8, front and back, keeping this parallel to the top of the flange, and that will allow me to know where I have to start grinding my radiuses in, and it keeps you from going in the wrong direction. So now I'm going to use a wore out, well not wore out, but well used rounded flap disc, about a 40 grit or 60 grit I think it is, and I'm going to start grinding my shape in here really slowly. Okay, so I've got this piece started, I'll just pull it out and show you. Now, this is the reason I don't weld that front one. As you can see, using my reference marks here, I just started grinding this curve in it. This allows me to slide it into the flange. I can rotate it where I need it. So right now, if I put my shim in, I can see that this has to come down probably close to 5/16, if not half an inch, so that this tube is in the right spot and the flange is sitting on my spacer here. So it's just a matter of slowly, got to get this piece turned, remark my centers on it, and I'm just going to slowly continue to take out material until I get the exact fit. Then I can mark this hole, I can cut the hole in it, I can weld this on, and then there's no way my flange can go anywhere because the two tubes, front and rear, are going to hold them in place. Okay guys, so I've got the piece shaped. It took about 10 attempts sneaking up on it, but that's the shape to get a perfect, nice weld. Then I put the piece in, line it up in the sweet spot, and I put a mark on my manifold tube or header tube here. Now I'm going to take my plasma cutter, I'm going to trim it out, and then I'll clean it up until I have a perfect fit with the die grinder, and then I can weld this tube on. I'll tack it in a few good spots, and then from now on, making the other ones is really simple. All I do is lift it up and trial fit them until they're the same, just like this one. Once I have them all fit, I can cut the rest of the holes, tack all the tubes in, make sure I have a good fit on the car or on the pickup, and then I can weld the header flange on as well. So I'll bring you back once I get the other two of these in there. I'll just show you here, that's the flap disc I'm using. It's a well-used rounded one, and it works the best. It doesn't catch the little pipe, because holding on to the little pipe, make sure you're wearing a glove, because if you slip, it takes skin off pretty quick. Okay guys, I've got the hole cut in the header. As you can see, maybe from the inside, not sure. Got a really nice match on the opening. I have the header flange where it's supposed to be. My spacer fits in there perfectly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure everything's down where it has to be, and I'm going to put 4 heavy tack welds on that tube, and then from there I can continue on with the other ones. Okay guys, so what we want to do is make sure on our fit and clearance on everything before we get too carried away welding stuff in. Make sure nothing changed. We got lots of clearance on everything at the back, as well as the front. It's all looking good. So now I can carry on, make those other 2 tubes, and finish off this header. Okay guys, so we've got both headers completed. They just need to be dressed up, sanded, and painted. Grab the light from this side. So we got them both in there. This one's a little tight, but there seems to be lots of clearance. Engine's going to torque down to the right, so now we'll carry on. This weekend our plan is to start prepping the donor engine, get all of the everything cleaned up, the combustion chamber and everything, and get her all put back together. So anyhow guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you like that segment on building headers. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. It was when I worked in the muffler business, and it's still enjoyable and challenging to build them. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.